So let's get into protein. Protein does great things for our muscles and tissue repair. So they contribute to growth and development. And that's why we hear a lot about athletes consuming a lot of protein in order to grow their muscles. Okay, you need it too, especially as a growing human. Protein also transports items in and out of our cells. They defend our body from disease by creating antibodies to fight off illnesses, and then also provides energy for our body, but it's not the most efficient use. Did you know that proteins make up 1/5 of your total body weight? So here's an image showing different proteins. You see a lot of animal products, a few nuts, right? Some grains back here. So we'll look more into plant and animal sources of protein. All right, so proteins also provide us with amino acids, okay? There's two, and our body needs those, and our body makes up 11 amino acids, but we actually need 20, okay? So our body makes up 11, we need 20. So where do you think we get the last 9? Eating foods that contain protein, right? So this comes from essential and non-essential, okay? So the non-essential amino acids our body makes, but they're not necessary in the diet, right? But essential amino acids, which we need, our body does not make, and we have to get it from our diet. So we have to get those essential amino acids from things that we eat, okay? Some foods contain all amino acids and some don't. So you gotta learn what helps your body, okay? So this is really important. There's complete proteins and incomplete proteins. So complete proteins come from animal sources, whether it's cheese from a cow, milk, right, or meat from an animal, and they contain all essential amino acids. And remember, we need those essential amino acids. Whereas incomplete proteins come from plant sources, and they're missing some essential amino acids that we need. Soybeans are the only exception. So we're going to talk more about plant sources and how we can make them go from incomplete to complete, okay? All right, plant sources of protein, you need to pair them with complementary proteins. So combining 2 or more incomplete proteins obtains all essential amino acids. So that's why rice and beans, I put that on our Jamboard, is a complete protein, because you're pairing a grain, rice, with a legume, black beans, right? So you can get complete proteins from plants, and that's how vegans and vegetarians are still able to support their body fully, right? So grains, nuts and seeds, vegetables, and legumes are all complementary proteins. Protein sources, so this is where we get our proteins, plant-based, right? So anything that's not an animal comes from grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes like beans. So legumes are like peanuts, soybeans, kidney beans, black beans, pinto beans, right? So we're using beans and rice as our complete protein in our dish this week. Our animal-based proteins are meats, poultry, like chicken and turkey, fish and seafood, eggs, cheese, yogurt, and milk. Okay, so the animal-based proteins are definitely a little bit more used commonly, especially in the American diet, but it's doable with plant-based. So there is a difference between meats and how good it is for us, okay? So I put them into 2 categories. We have lean meats, which have lower fat content, like chicken breasts, fish, ground turkey, like shrimp, and those have less fat content. The more fatty meats are higher in saturated fats, but they're also higher in protein. That would be like bacon, right? Steak, chicken thighs, beef, lots of red meats fall in those fatty meat categories. Breakfast sausage would be fatty. And it's okay to eat fatty meats. Just make sure that you're balancing it with the rest of your diet, right? You don't want to have bacon every single day and that be like your main source of protein, okay? All right, did you know that pregnant women, nursing mothers, teens, y'all, toddlers, infants, and athletes need more protein? So when we talk about how much protein you need, it should make up about 10 to 35% of your diet, okay? And there's 4 calories per gram. So if you ever look on the back of the food label and you see the amount of grams of protein, multiply it by 4, and then you know how many calories are coming from the protein. But yeah, so about 35% of your diet. So in the American diet, we often overconsume protein, okay? So when we eat too much protein foods, it's broken down and stored in our body is fat. Okay, huge amounts of protein cause our body to work overtime to break it down. Whereas if we eat too little, which is not a big problem here, we have protein energy malnutrition. So weight loss, stunted growth, right? Not great things. So we want to find a balance, just like in everything, but especially with protein. So now on Canvas, you guys get to choose what level of learning you want to do today, because I know that sometimes our brains aren't always on full capacity, right? So I have 3 levels. Level 1 is an article listing protein facts with like a basic introduction video on what protein is, okay? Level 2 is a fun article, or not fun, but it's a good overview article on what protein is and good sources of protein, and has lots of pictures. That's why I think it's fun. And then the last level is if you are a little bit more into the science of protein. So it's an article covering animal product protein specifically, and then a video on the science behind it. And so I thought that was really fun. So you get to choose one of those levels. You do not need to do all 3 of them. You do not need to read 3 articles and watch 2 videos, but choose one of those levels. Okay, it's going to kind of be a recap of things that I just said, and hopefully help stick those things in your brain. Okay, so when you are done with that, you are going to do a Google form, okay? And that's going to check your understanding. Because remember, these are our 3 essential questions. What are common sources of protein? What does protein help our body do? And then what's the difference between complete and incomplete proteins?